Hi, I'm Sherry here at the Little Beading Closet. Thanks for joining me in a tutorial for this beautiful handmade beaded cross. Try using it as a Bible bookmark, attach it to a keychain, simply hang it from a wall, or wear it as a necklace. I think that the best part of this beaded cross is how strong it is. Its strength comes from the cubic Pondo stitch and allows the arms to remain stiff and everything to keep its shape. Before we look at all the supplies today, I would like to take a moment to share with you a special photo. In loving memory of my mother, Ethel Marie Scott. This cross is made up of size 8 seed beads. I chose to use 2 finishes of the same color for this one. To embellish along the edge, you'll need size 15 seed beads and 3mm beads. You could try a 3mm crystal, a fire polish, or even some little pearls. I like using a size 12 beading needle, and I start off with 6 feet of my wildfire. I'm going to begin by picking up 4 of my size 8 seed beads. I'll bring these down near the end of my thread, and I won't need a tail. So now I'll needle back through the 4 seed beads I just added, bringing this together. And to turn it into right angle weave, I'll needle through the very first one and pull tight. And you can see you have a nice right angle weave unit to start with. Since this is my first unit, I'm going to go ahead and needle back through my beads until my working thread and my tail are together. Now that my tail and working thread are together, I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 knots here. I'm only doing this here for the beginning. I will then needle into 1 bead past the knot, now we're going to be picking up another size 8, coming out of this one, coming into the very next one. Again, adding 1 size 8 between 2 on the first round, 1 more size 8 into the next size 8 of the first round, again 1 more size 8 coming into the last 8 of the first round, and then step up into the first one that you added in the second round. You have just completed 1 unit of Pondo stitch. We're going to go back to the first color and pick up a total of 4 more seed beads and come back through the one that we're exiting. For me, it's going to be easier just to turn this in my hand. I'm going to come through the first one that I just added, picking up 1 of my second color, coming through the next one, picking up 1 of my second color, coming through the next one, again picking up 1 of my second color and coming through the next one and into the very first one. Now we have 2 units connected together. I need to needle from this point over here to this tip bead. 4 more size 8 seed beads on my needle. I'll come back through this one right here. Turning the work in my hand, needling through the first one, then I'll pick up my other color, picking up one and coming into the next, picking up one, coming into the next, picking up one, coming into the next, plus the very first bead. Now with 3 units connected, we just need to needle over here to the end. Now that we have 3 units of Pondo stitch made, we're going to do something a little bit different. We'll begin the same by picking up 4 of the size 8 seed beads and coming through the one that we're exiting. Now we're going to needle into the first one that we added, pick up one of your other color, and come into the next one. And at this point, I don't need my tail anymore. I'm going to go ahead and trim it off. So the bead that will go right here between these two is actually this one. So if you fold it together, you'll see that you'll be going through this one here, and then into the next one. So we're going to pick up one more. It's going to sit right here. So go ahead and come into your next one. Pulling everything tightly. And back through this one here. And now you have 4 units of Pondo stitch connected together. You'll be exiting here in the middle. And we need to come up to one of the ends. Now that I'm coming into the end, we need to make sure that we have a unit of Pondo stitch on this end and over here on this end. So picking up 4 more seed beads, I'm going to come back through the one that I'm exiting. And you have this little flap of 4 seed beads here on the end. Come into the first one and into the next tip of one of your units. Now we'll come into the second one and into the tip of our next unit. Again, we'll come into the third one and the tip of our next unit. And then we have our last one, come into it, and the tip of our next unit. So we have the 4 sides of Pondo stitch and one end. Now we just need to come down here and repeat the process for the other end. As soon as we do that, we'll have a very solid cube to work with. So go ahead and needle up through your work and coming into the next one, and then through the middle, and then I need to get into one of these tip beads. So I'm just coming through the next bead and line before the tip and then through the tip. I'm going to pick up my last 4 size 8 seed beads and come back through the bead that I'm exiting. And again, we have this little flap of beads that's going to sit here in the middle. Come into the first one that you just added, plus your next tip. Come into the next one that I added, and through the next tip. Come into the next one I added, and through the next tip. Through the last one, the 4th one, and the next tip. At this point, you're going to have a very solid cube that you can use as is, but now we're going to go ahead and add on to it. And pick up 4 size 8 seed beads and needle into the opposite side of the bead that I'm coming out of. Now that we're coming out of here, needle into the first one you just added. Pick up the other color, coming through the next one, picking up the other color through the next one, and picking up the other color, come into the next one, and I'm going to needle in through the one here on the base. So now we just attached another unit of Pondo stitch to this one, and we need to do the same over here. To get there, you have to come through 2 beads. So you'll come through the next one that sits sort of down there in the little valley, and then into the next end. Picking up 4 more of my size 8 seed beads, needling back through the one that I'm coming out of. On this one, on this round, you can see that this tip from this unit will actually go in here. Before we get to that point though, we come through our first one that we just added. Pick up your other color, coming through the next bead, picking up your other color, coming through the next bead, and you can also go through the tip here on this unit at the same time. And then through the next 2 beads, now you can see that you have another unit of Pondo stitch connected to the first one. And now we need to add one here on this end unit. So we'll be coming through 2 beads, one down here in the base, just before the one on the tip, and then through the tip. Picking up 4 more size 8 seed beads, I'll needle through the bead that my thread is exiting. So we're coming into the first one, picking up 1. So you're going to pick up 2 beads and then come through 3. So we just picked up 1, picking up 1 more bead, then we'll be coming through 3 beads. We just came through 1, then we'll come through this one here on this unit, 2, and then through this unit right here, 3, and back through the original base. Now we have to again repeat the process by putting another unit of Pondo stitch right here on this one. So we'll come through 2 beads to get there, one kind of down here on the base, and then up here through the one on the tip. So go ahead and pick up 4 of your size 8 seed beads and needle back through the one that your thread is coming out of. Now this time we'll only be adding 1 size 8 seed bead. So come into the first one that you added and then into the tip of this Pondo stitch here. Coming through the size 8, and this is where we'll be attaching our 1 size 8 for this round. Come into the next size 8, through this existing Pondo stitch bead, and then back through our size 8, and through the one here on the base. So now you have almost completed 2 units. We need to come up here and add a little hat here on the end. So I'm going to needle up to one of these tip beads. So coming out down here, I'll just be needling up one at a time until I reach the tip. Now that I'm exiting the tip bead here, I just need to add the end. Go ahead and pick up 4 size 8 seed beads and needle back through the bead that your thread is exiting. So these are going to be sitting in here. Needle through the first one and the tip of one of your Pondo units. I'm going to needle through the next one and through the tip of another Pondo unit. And needle through the next one and then the tip of another Pondo unit. Almost finished. I'm just needling through my last size 8 and the tip of this next Pondo unit. Continue by making 3 more cubic Pondo stitches for a total of 5. Once you have all 5 units together and your end closed up, you'll be exiting one of the units here. You will then retrace your beads and needle until you get to one of these here in the center of your work. So let's go ahead and start that. Exiting here on the end, I'll needle through one bead at a time. It does not have to be any particular direction, just as long as you're needling towards the center of your work to end up in one of these 4 beads. And like I said, I'm just going to needle one at a time, following my thread path. And the goal here is just to end up right here at the center of your work, coming out one of the tips. And now we're going to be working on the section here at the top of our cross by adding 2 more of the cubic Pondo stitches to this one. Begin, just like before, by picking up the 4 size 8 seed beads and coming through the bead that your thread is exiting. Come into the first one you added, picking up 1 more size 8 seed bead, coming into the next, picking up 1 more size 8 seed bead, into the next, picking up 1 more size 8 seed bead, into the next, and through the one here on the base, pulling everything tight. Next, we're going to be needling over here to this point. You just have to come through this bead first. This is probably the most difficult part of the whole project, is just getting the right angle for your needle to go through. Once you've done that, it's really easy. We're just going to come right into this other tip here in the middle unit. Again, pick up 4 size 8 seed beads and needle back through the bead that your thread is exiting. Come into the first seed bead that you added, picking up 1 more size 8 into your next seed bead, 1 more size 8 into the next seed bead. And just like before, at this point, we're going to be going through the tip of the side that was already existing. And back through here. And now you just want to make sure that you needle through the one down here in the base. So we have sides 1 and 2. I'm going to turn it in my hand, come through 2 seed beads, and don't get discouraged. Just try to find the right angle for your needle to come through this bead. Sometimes you have to give it a little wiggle. And step into the tip bead here, just like so. Again, pick up 4 size 8 seed beads and come through the bead that your thread is exiting. Needle into the first bead that you added. Picking up 1 more size 8, coming into the next bead. 1 more size 8, into the next bead, through the one that was existing here on the tip of this unit, through the next bead, and back through the base. We just have our one side left to do. Again, you want to needle through 2 beads to get there. And you might just have to come in at a different angle to get your needle through. Coming through this one. And then again, your size 8 here on the base. Pick up 4 more size 8 seed beads. Needle back through the bead that your thread is exiting. Go ahead and needle through the first bead that you added, through the tip of this unit here, through the next bead that you added. We're going to pick up 1 more seed bead, and it goes right here on the end, sitting here. Come back through this tip bead, and again we're going to needle through the next bead. We're going to needle back through the base, turning the work of my hand. I'm going to start coming up 1 bead at a time to get up here to the tip. And this is really the only difficult part of the whole project, is working along the base where you connect here. And then when we connect again down here, the rest will be smooth sailing. So we're going to come up here and through this bead here on the tip. And if you're like me at this point or any other point and need to add thread, I'll go ahead and show you how I do that now. First, I'll cut a length of thread that I'm very comfortable working with and slip it underneath the existing one that still has the needle attached and knot it on. So now I have a new thread knotted on to my old thread. I take the old thread with the needle and knot it onto the long part of my new thread, pulling tightly. And then I'll also take the short tail and knot it onto the long part of my new thread again. Before I trim anything, I do take the needle off of my old thread and put it on the new end. Now I'm ready to continue with my project. I'll pull this tight and continue here at this point before I trim anything off. Moving my tails out of the way, just holding them here under my thumb. Pick up 4 more size 8 seed beads and come back through the bead that your thread is exiting. Again, we're putting the hat on the end. So we come through the first bead that we added and the tip of this next Pondo unit. Again, through one of the beads that we added here and the tip of the next Pondo unit. Through our next bead and next tip on the next Pondo unit. And again, into the very last bead that we had just added and through the one that we began with. Pulling this all tightly and making sure that our thread is still connected. I'm not going to trim it off quite yet. I'll do another unit and make sure everything is solid before I do. So I'll pick up 4 more seed beads and keep going. So just like before, you come through the first one that you added, picking up 1 more size 8 into the next size 8, picking up one more size 8 into the next size 8, and my very last size 8 for this round, and back through the base where I started, pulling everything tight. My connection is secure, and I'll go ahead and trim off my tails. Like I said, we need 2 cubic Pondo stitches up here at the top of our cross, so I'll go ahead and finish this one up off camera. I just finished my second cubic Pondo stitch here at the top, and I need to come down here to one of these beads to add the bottom section, which is made up of 4 of the cubic Pondo stitches. You can go ahead, retrace through the beads to get there, or I like to take a shortcut by going right through the center of my work, coming out down here, and then I'm going to needle through one of the ends of my Pondo stitch. Now I'm ready to continue by adding 4 of the cubic Pondo stitches down here. After adding the 4 cubic Pondo stitches here at the bottom, our cross shape is complete and we're ready to work on our embellishments. And we will begin working on the bottom with the square shape. I'm going to be using these 3mm round faceted metallic blue beads along with size 15 seed beads. Coming out of the bottom here with my thread, now exiting this bead here, I'm going to pick up 115, 1 3mm round, and 115 and come into the next tip of a Pondo stitch. Securing that into place. You're going to continue adding the 15 3mm and 15 for every corner down here at the bottom, and one more, coming back through the size 8 that we started with. I do like to retrace the thread path here on the end to make sure everything is nice and tight and in place. Now that I retraced the thread path here on the bottom and I'm exiting this size 8 here, I'll be coming into this size 8 and into the first tip here on this Pondo stitch along the edge with the size 15 3mm and 15. I'll needle into the tip of the next Pondo stitch here along the edge, pulling everything into place, and repeat that for the next 2. Once I have these 2 in place, I'll need to put one more 3mm right here in the corner. And to do that, I'll be needling into the bead right here, just like that. And then needle back through the 3mm. Now I need to needle down through this bead right here. Once I come down through this bead, before pulling everything really tight, come back through your 3mm one more time. Now I will go ahead and push it into place and pull sort of at the same time to get that 3mm bead to sit right in there. To continue along the edge, the next tip of the Pondo stitch, I'll add my 15 3mm and 15 into this next one. Before I can work on the end, I need to come up to this tip bead here. So I'll come through this one and then into here. Now I'm ready to add the corners here along this end. So with the size 15, 3mm and 15, come into the tip of the next Pondo stitch. Repeat that all the way around and retrace that thread path. With this end completed, I'm going to go ahead and needle up here to this tip. So I'll come through this one first and into the tip. I'll go ahead and come up here and repeat this process of putting one of the 3mm here in the corner. First I'll do the 15, 3mm and 15 here. So picking up one 3mm, I'll come through this 8 just here and not pulling everything too tight at the moment. Needle back through your 3mm. And now we're coming through this size 8 away from the center and towards ourselves. Before pulling everything completely tight, needle back through your 3mm. You'll want to push down on the top of it and pull your thread at the same time, getting it to sit snugly here in the corner. And then go ahead and work on your edging all the way around. Just don't forget to come up to the tip to start working on the end. Once you completely embellish the edge of your cross, go ahead and come into another bead, pulling your thread through and needle through some of the beads, retracing your path, and when your thread is secure, go ahead and trim it off. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial on the beaded cross. As you can see, there's a nice opening here in the middle. You can add a jump ring or a bail, anything you'd like. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful day.